Okay, now we're going to discuss what powers Mudarib has. Number one, the Mudarib may accept funds from third party on Mudarabah basis if it will not affect his management responsibility of first Mudarabah contract. That Mudarib is not bound to run only the business of first Rabb-ul-Maal. He is allowed to accept Mudarabah fund from second and third Rabb-ul-Maal for various businesses. But the main condition is this, that acceptance of fund from other Rabb-ul-Maal does not affect the business of first Rabb-ul-Maal. For example, if I gave money on Mudarabah basis to Mr. Bilal, and Mr. Bilal also want to run business on Mudarabah basis, and he want to accept money from Mr. Salman, then Bilal is allowed to accept the Mudarabah fund from Mr. Salman on the condition that his entering in second Mudarabah contract with Mr. Salman will not affect the Mudarabah contract with Mr. Abu Bakr, because he first signed Mudarabah contract with Mr. Abu Bakr. So if his second contract does not adversely affect the first Mudarabah contract, then Mudarib is allowed to accept second, third, fourth, fifth Mudarabah contracts. The condition remains same, that if the other contract does not affect the previous contracts, he can do it. Rabb-ul-Maal is not allowed to intervene in business like selling and buying. If Mudarib refers him, then he is allowed. As we have discussed earlier, that Rabb-ul-Maal is not allowed to do that. Rabb-ul-Maal cannot stipulate condition that Mudarib must mix his capital in the investment, or he must enter into the partnership with other contract. Rabb-ul-Maal is not allowed to put this condition that I give you money on the condition that you will invest your money into that, or I will give you money on the Mudarabah contract on the condition you will enter into the partnership contract with some other guy. Why? Because we know that, and it is a main condition in Mudarabah and Islamic law of contracts, that the contracts remain unconditional. There should be no contingency between the two contracts. Here, Rabb-ul-Maal is making one contract condition for the second contract, so this is not allowed by Sharia. There is dependency between the two contracts, and it is not allowed. Mudarib is allowed to hire a person. Mudarib is allowed to hire a person to do some work related to his responsibilities. Then wage will be paid from Mudarib's pocket. Very simple. Agar Mudarib, because it was that a hired guy will play the role of Mudarib. He will do the job of Mr. Mudarib. So who will pay the a new guy? The Mudarib from his own pocket will pay him, because he is not doing, the hired worker is not doing the job of the business, Mudarabah. He is actually performing the responsibilities of Mudarib. So that is why Mudarib will pay by himself. वो उसकी तो चूंकि मुदारिब ने अपने काम के लिए उसको रखा है, तो मुदारिब भी फिर उसके पैसे देगा, बिजनेस से उसके पैसे नहीं अदा किए जाएंगे, उसकी तनख्वाह. Mudarib will take his living expenses from Mudarabah fund if it was determined in MOU. अगर MOU में ये बात तय हो गई थी कि भाई if Mudarib will travel in such a way that he can take the TADA allowances, and he can also personal living expenses from his, but it must be mentioned in the memorandum of understanding. If it is not mentioned, it is not pre-agreed, then he is not allowed to take living expenses from Mudarabah fund. Otherwise, he will take these expenses in accordance with the custom and the reason, urf, market practices, as per, then he can do it. If there is a practice in the market that that Mudarib takes some money, then he will take equal that money. He is also entitled to traveling expense in accordance with the custom and reason. जितना किराया नॉर्मली मार्केट में लग रहा है कि भी या इस बिजनेस ट्रेवल के लिए इतना लगता है, तो फिर उसको उतनी अमाउंट दी जाएगी. Okay. Number 4, the nature of Mudarabah capital. Mudarabah capital should preferably be in the form of cash, because capital in the form of liquid asset may lead to illiquid asset may lead to uncertainties and disputes. वो कहता है कि illiquid asset, for example, some person says that there are my 2 cars, 1 vehicle, and one also 4 goats. So these are also, Islam says that these are the property, these are the mal, but they are an illiquid asset. So illiquid asset, it will lead to uncertainties and disputes, because it is mandatory for the mudarabah that mudarabah capital amount should be mentioned in the very beginning of the contract. And you know that the prices of animals, prices of other assets varies market to market, perception to perception. So that is why it will cause dispute between the parties. So that is the reason the Sharia scholar says that Mudarabah capital must be in the form of cash. The value of liquid asset must be clearly determined in terms of legal tender at the time of the entering into the Mudarabah contract. यानी कि पहले से तय हो जानी चाहिए कि कितनी कीमत जो illiquid asset है, तो ये बता दिया जाए कि मुदारबा की कीमत इस वक्त फंड कितनी है. And there should be no ambiguity or uncertainty about its value. The valuation of the asset may be conducted by expert or agreed upon the contracting practice parties. ये इसका मतलब है कि भी आपको इवैल्यूएशन करानी पड़ेगी in case of illiquid asset, but it is not preferred in the market. The preferred situation is that that Mudarabah fund should be in cash form, not an illiquid asset form. It is not permitted to use a debt owed by Mudarib or another party to the capital provider as a capital in Mudarabah contract. For example, if I enter into if I mean Mr. Abu Bakr, if I as a Rabb-ul-Maal enter into Mudarabah contract with Mr. Salman, and I say to Mr. Salman that you owe me $1,000. Now consider that $1,000 as a Mudarabah fund and do the business. What the profit you will earn, we will share it. So the Sharia says that it is not allowed, because I did not give him Mudarabah capital. I am just considering my debt receivable payable by Mr. Salman. I am considering that amount as a Mudarabah fund. Sharia says that it is not allowed. Debt is debt. Debt amount cannot be considered as an investment amount. ये ध्यान में रख लें बात. Mudarabah contract will be valid only when Mudarib have free access to the Mudarabah capital. When Rabb-ul-Maal enter into the contract with the Mudarib, then it is basic responsibility of Rabb-ul-Maal that he must give free access to the capital to Mudarib. ऐसा ना हो कि भी sale and purchase के लिए for every time he requests to Mr. Rabb-ul-Maal that please give me such money because I have to buy this, and please give me this money, I want to buy that thing, I want to invest that thing. No, for every decision he must have free access to the capital so that he make decisions very easily and he may run business very smoothly.